Hey there, and thank you for joining me for today's video. This is part 2 of a series of videos of the rescue and restoration of this 1954 Chevrolet pickup. In the previous video, we traveled 1,300 miles to Oklahoma and retrieved this truck from my grandfather's barn where it had been sitting since the late 80s. In that video, we were able to do an initial clean, get the engine running, and then we hauled it home. Now this is what he looks like, and we are ready to begin the restoration process. Today's video will be a bit more on the technical side. We will do some things like begin working on the brakes, install a fuel pump, and begin working on the electrical system. Thanks again for joining us. Hope you're able to sit back, relax, and enjoy the video.
So as you know, my fuel pump wasn't working. Picked up this cheap China looking fuel pump. I think it was about 40 bucks. And I really wanted to and may still at some point rebuild the original fuel pump just because it's so unique looking with that glass bowl on top. But that fuel pump is not pumped at all. I've had it hooked up with gas going to it while I'm running the motor, just nothing. And I've heard mixed reviews on trying to rebuild them, and the rebuild kits are more than these replacement pumps. So for now, I'm gonna go ahead and switch it out, see if we can get it running on its own without the boat tank.
I was able to get the fuel pump installed and it worked great. So now we're moving on to beginning with the brakes.
Okay, so I got the back drum off, and the first thing I discovered is that there are absolutely no brake shoes left. This was metal on metal. You can see a little bit there at the bottom. Just a little bit of brake shoe peeling off there, and the drum is in bad shape. Has a big lip on it, so looks like we're going to need new drums in the back as well as new brake shoes. And then what I'm trying to get at is this wheel cylinder here. I want to take that apart and measure the bore on the inside of that wheel cylinder so I can see if I can get a rebuild kit or whether I replace the whole wheel cylinder. So that's the next thing. So I took the front wheel off now, and things look a lot cleaner in here. However, the brake shoe situation is exactly the same. There is no lining on these pads at all. There's a little bit left on the bottom half of that one. And yeah, my brake drum is just shot. It's got huge grooves in, as you would expect. So Not sure what Grandpa was doing there. I know he didn't have a lot of money, but it seems like buying brake shoes would be something he would have done. But see what this wheel cylinder looks like. The back one, I believe, is salvageable. I've honed it out and I think it's going to be all right if I rebuild it. And this one looks even better. So let's see what we find. All right, so I got the front wheel cylinder out, and it appears the actual rubbers and stuff looked pretty good in this one. So I think maybe this one had been rebuilt. However, the brake hose going to the front wheel cylinder, not awesome. And looks like there must have been a leak that was attempted to be fixed with electrical tape. Interesting. But I think I'm going to be able to save the wheel cylinder, just put a new kit in it. So this is the front wheel cylinder. I got it all cleaned up, taken apart, and I honed it out on the inside. And as you can see, it got pretty nice. You can still see a little bit of pitting in there, but you can't feel it, so I think it'll seal up just fine based on past experience. But yeah, working on cleaning up all the brake parts like that. We'll get some kits ordered and put them back together. So the rear wheel cylinders were 1 inch and the front ones are 1 1/8 inches. Okay, you got the front spindle and all that cleaned up, and now I'm going to go underneath and look at the master cylinder. This is going to be, I don't know how well it'll video, but I'm going to come underneath the truck here. Master cylinder, we put some brake fluid in it just on the off chance it would hold, and well, of course it didn't because it was dry. So now I'm underneath the truck. It's the transmission, and this is my brake cylinder. So it's mounted right on the, trying to get some light on it here, on the inside of the frame rail. And yeah, you can see where it's wet from leaking brake fluid. Got 2 brake lines to unhook to what appears to be 5/8 bolts. The linkage, and she'll come out and see what we got. So I got my first shipment of parts in over the weekend. Ended up ordering all my brake parts from Amazon. Significantly cheaper. I don't know if it's cheap China junk or not, but I got 4 drums, brake drums. They're AC Delco brand. They were like 33 bucks a piece shipped, which is kind of crazy to me. Got all the brake hoses that I need, which is 3, 2 for the front wheels and 1 at the back axle. My wheel cylinders, they were something like $13 each, which is not much more than rebuild kits, which was what I was going to do. Got brake shoes, again AC Delco, I don't remember, 30 bucks or something for a pair. And then I got these bits that apparently you need to work on these old trucks, called clutch head bits. And yeah, taking the doors apart, and I've noticed them kind of all over the place. Never seen them before, but yeah, kind of exciting to get some new parts. So hopefully today we can get some of them put on, see how they work. Getting ready to put the brake shoes back on. It's not my favorite job. Brake shoes make me thankful for disc brakes. But I've got it all cleaned up here and ready to reinstall. The only thing I'm lacking is my brake hose. I've ordered those 3 times. First 2 times they came in wrong. Today I'm supposed to get the proper brake hose, but I can go ahead and put the brake cylinder on, put the brake shoes on and everything here, I think, while I'm waiting on that. So we will go ahead. I'll put it on a time lapse and let you watch. It's painful enough to watch in real time. Well, it's a couple days later, and I've been working on the brakes. Nothing much to show you that would be interesting to watch at all. I have remembered why I don't like drum brakes and brake shoes. Pretty hateful to work on, but when you got all new stuff, it's not so bad once I get everything cleaned up. So I put new shoes on all four corners here. I took the front wheel bearings off, out, cleaned them out, repacked them. They seem to be in good shape. Had to drill the drums off the hubs. So I'm hoping they don't need to be re-riveted on there. When I did my Corvette, the brake rotors were riveted on from the factory, and you didn't have to re-rivet them when you replaced them. So I didn't here either. I don't see any reason you'd need to. But yeah, new shoes, new wheel cylinders. I replaced the hoses to both of the front wheel cylinders and to the one here in the back at the axle where it flexes. So make sure I have everything solid as far as the brakes. Bleeding them was the easiest brake bleeding job I've ever done, if it works, which it seems like it has. I was by myself, so I used the old, well, this trick I learned from Chris Fix on YouTube. I just put a tube in a clear jar of brake fluid like that, put it on the bleed valve and opened up the bleed valve and went inside and pumped it twice for each wheel. And the brake lines were completely empty and I had no bubbles left, which was amazing. It seems like my master cylinder pumps tremendous amount of volume. About 4 pumps, maybe 5, and the master cylinder is empty, which it doesn't hold a lot, but I'm not sure. It really seemed to go quick and easy. So strange. Then I had to adjust up all the brake shoes, which is a hateful job. But for the first time in my life, I bought a brake shoe adjustment tool, and that made it a lot better. I will say that if you're considering buying one of these, which is it's a Mighty Vac, to bleed your brakes, don't bother. It's a complete waste. It did not work even a little bit. It just introduced too much air into it. Didn't work. I don't know how else to say it, but don't waste your time buying one of those. To bleed brakes, just use the old jar with a tube and brake fluid. That seems to do the trick. All right, I'm gonna put the wheels back on. I'm gonna take it for a drive for the first time with a fuel pump, with a working ignition switch, and hopefully working brakes. I've been doing some research regarding wheels, how to order wheels. I've never really understood backset or offset and backset and those kinds of things, but I think I'm figuring it out, and I'm trying to get the beefiest wheels under here that will fit. So I'll let you know a little bit more about that once I get it all figured out. Backspacing and offset, those are the words I was looking for. Okay, I'll be back once I get this thing going. Today I'm back on the 54 pickup. Got the brakes all finished up. Last time I was working on it, it's a few days later now. Actually pretty close to a week later, and I was able to, as you may know, my tires held air, sort of. They were on this truck when I found it, but about every 3 days I have to put air in that one. There's another one back here on the back leaking, and they have terrible flat spots. So I was trying to decide whether I was going to go ahead and buy rims and tires right now or what I was going to do. I didn't really want to buy tires to put on these rims because they're not the end game, I don't think. But got lucky and scored a set of nice tires here for 50 bucks for all 4 of them on Facebook Marketplace. So I'm gonna go ahead and put those on as rollers for now. They are about a 1/2 inch wider than these and about 2 inches shorter, so much lower profile. So I don't know how it's gonna look, but they're gonna work at least to roll on right now. And I don't have a tire changer, so I'm gonna do it all by hand. And so you old school guys will know what that's all about, but some of you may not know that you can change your tires by hand. I'm going to do that. These are particularly challenging because they're old and hard, so that makes it a lot harder. But I'm going to give it a shot. I actually took the first one off and it ended up being easier than I thought. I thought I'd just run the camera here, let you see how it works to change a tire by hand. So basically what I plan to do is take these tires off, clean up the rims, shoot them with a quick coat of black spray paint, put the tires on, put them back on, and that's what we're gonna do for now. All right, so to change a tire by hand, need this little tool here. It's a valve core remover. And then I've got some hand tire tools and a bead breaker. These are old tools that my dad gave me. And I do even have a bubble balancer over here, so we'll be able to balance them and at least get them close for our purposes. So the first thing I gotta do is remove the valve core so that all the air will come out, and we can break the bead and start getting this process going. Just a straighter valve, just remove it. Nice. Sounds like I'm setting off an alarm or something. All right. Once that air is out, and I'll take this tool, try to put it around here so you can see what I'm doing. We'll see how easy this bead breaks. I was fortunate on the first one, it broke super easy. Not going to be as easy. There it went. On this one, and it's broken all the way around. That is unusual, honestly. For old tires like this, they've been sitting around, but I'm grateful. I have a buddy that has a tire changer. It wasn't available and I wanted to get started. That one broke too. You got to get it down all the way around. And yeah, so that's the first step. I always put that handle down so it doesn't whack me in the head. All right, next step. So get the long one first, and you got to get this bead down off that lip all the way around. And then you just push this in like that. You got to make sure this tire stays down off the edge of that rim. Otherwise you won't be able to get this up over the edge. Thankfully, we don't have to worry about this bead because these tires are junk. There we go. These tires are hard as a rock. Just have to take a little bite at a time here at the beginning. Once you get this initial part started, then you're kind of home free. Now we're So if I had a tire machine, I could do all of that in about a minute instead of it took me 5. Now, this next step is kind of a pain. I'm gonna go get my hammer. So you need a good, at least 4-pound hammer for this. Try to show you here on camera what I'm doing. All right, I'm going to stick this long one in here, get as much leverage as possible. And typically when you have a soft tire, this will just fold over pretty easily, but that is not the case here. So this is going to give me a bit of a fit. Basically, you get it coming and then you just whack on it with the hammer. It's going to come. I believe I got it. Well, that could have gone a lot harder. And there you go. Tire is dismounted. So you can see on this tire here,
where it was flat all those years sitting on it. This one was actually holding air. Pretty amazing. So now I'm going to take this rim, clean it up, and throw a little paint on, and we'll have our new tires. Got the rim cleaned up and painted. Put some semi-gloss paint on it. Didn't think I wanted glossy paint, kind of in the theme of patina. Don't want to get it too shiny. So real important that you get the edges cleaned up here so it seals good. Make sure there's no rust or anything on that. These were in pretty good shape actually. And I haven't found that it works real well to actually paint that, because it seems like they begin to leak later. So I didn't paint the actual edge here where the tire seals against it. I just made sure it was nice and clean. It wasn't rusty, so that's good. So I didn't clean these like I normally would or paint them like I normally would. I would typically want to sandblast this and paint it with automotive paint. Today, I just steel brushed them down, gave them a quick sand, and blew some Rust-Oleum paint on them, semi-gloss black, and that's all I'm going to do, because this is not a permanent fix. Again, just trying to get something that maybe looks half decent, better than rust, but mostly just rollers. That's what these tires are. So what we want to do is get our tire, of course, determine which side you want out. These, it doesn't matter. They're the exact same on both sides. And first thing we want to do is get some soap. I just use dishwashing detergent. And we want to just quickly put some on the bead here. That does two things. Makes it slide on easier, and it helps seal it. So do that. And that bead is a little rough there. It's got a chunk out of it. Hopefully it'll seal up. Again, these are just rollers basically. But I'm a little concerned. When I looked online and compared the size to what was on there, it said that these tires would only be a ½ inch wider than what I had. But it turns out they're significantly wider than that. So we'll see how it works out. So there's a couple ways you can do this. I like to just come in on top here, try to make sure I'm in the video, and get started down in there like that, and then just work at it again with my tools. Just a little at a time, work the way around. So for this width of a tire, these are two 35/60 16s. They say that you should have at least a 6.5 inch rim. Actually, I only have a 6 inch rim, so we'll see how it works. Might look a little goofy with the tire sticking out. A little concerned about that, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, do the first side like that. And actually, I'm going to get something to lay that on so I don't scratch up my new paint. I'll just put a rug down here, turn this over. Now this is going to be fun. Wow. Because this tire is so much wider than the rim. So the style right now is to stretch your tires. I'm going to go the opposite way. And yeah, I'm trying to put a wide tire on a narrow rim. So again, we got to try to get it down below that lip, like we did when we were taking it off. This is going to be a challenge to do by hand, because it's so wide. We'll get it. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing here, but we'll keep it down there. Yeah, it's gonna work. Just keep working my way around. Get it all the way on. The tighter it gets, you have to just take smaller chunks. Real key to keep it down around here on the back side, below the ridge, so it gives me as much slack as possible. All right, this is gonna. I'm sure you can't see much at this point. Down to the last little bit here. Not great on the bead, but if you're careful, it'll be all right. Should be the last one. Oh, one more. And there we go. So, now, what we got going on here. Had some tape on here to cover it up on painting. Got my valve core back in. Now we'll try to give it some air. So let's see what happens. Oh yeah. Now it'll pop out and make a loud noise when the bead seals. Probably. So that's about 35 pounds of air. And you can see it looks a little goofy. It's obvious that the tire is wider than the rim is designed for, but it'll work for what we're doing. So we'll stick them on and see what they look like. So before I put these tires and wheels back on, I'm going to balance them. And again, I don't have a modern balancer, but I do have a bubble balancer. So basically there's a bubble here, like a level. And so you get your unit level, so the bubble's in the middle. And then you put your tire on top of it. Centered on there. And then there's a lever you push so that you can see how the tire's moving here. So it's hanging freely by the middle, and it tells you how far your bubble is off. And then I have wheel weights like this. There was some big ones on there before that you clip on there to make it balance. So I don't know if you can see it there. Can't see very well. Yeah. See how my bubble is off center? And so I've found the weight that makes it right. 2.75, it's a pretty big weight. If I just lay it over here on this side, then it brings my bubble around. If I can get it to hold still here. Brings my bubble around pretty much to the center. Close enough for what we're doing here. There we go. So that's how you do the old bubble balancer. So I'll just clip that on with a hammer, and it'll be enough so it doesn't shake my teeth out, at least going down the road. Well, I've got the tires mounted on the back. Haven't done the front yet. And they look goofy. They don't look right because they're too wide for the rim. You probably can't really tell here. If I get a side shot, maybe a little better. But anyway, they hold air. And I did take it for just a quick ride. I don't have time to do the front ones this evening, but quick ride up the road, and I would say 70% of my bumpy tires are gone. It's gonna ride a whole lot different, a whole lot better once I get the rest of those tires on. And it'll be nice to not have to put air in them every couple of days. But anyway, I'll update you once I get the front ones on and we'll see how it rides. So I had a day off today and I'm working on the 54 a little bit. I got all 4 wheels cleaned up and painted and put tires on them for now, and put one of the old tires on the spare that did hold air. And so I decided to start on the cab. Pretty nasty smell in there, and I knew I didn't have things cleaned out behind the seat because I hadn't figured out how to get the seat out yet. So got the seat out, got the frame here, got the gas tank, and so I've been working on cleaning inside. So just a lot of dirt in there, just piled up over the years, and literally had to scrape it out. And I was glad to find that a little bit of surface rust, but nothing serious behind the seats, which is a really good thing. This cab corner on the passenger side, a little bit of surface rust down in there, but everything is good. Now the one on the passenger side, they had so much stuff stored behind there and mouse nests and so on, it did actually rust out, so I'll show you that in a minute. The floorboards are all good. There's no rust in the floorboards, up in those kick panels or any of that area at all. So I'll take you around and show you the other side. So the doors are good, there's no rust, that's all a little bit of surface rust and mostly dirt, Oklahoma dirt. So much Oklahoma dirt. And down in this cab corner, you can see that I am rusted out. And you can see that the line right here, this was full of tools and dirt, old fertilizer bags, and mouse nests. So that was all holding moisture down there and rusted out that cab corner. Only rust really in the truck, other than surface rust. So that's good news. Should be able to fix that fairly easily. But right now I'm gonna get some all-purpose cleaner and the pressure washer and just clean out this cab real good. And we'll go from there. Today I'm tackling the taillights. So this truck has one taillight, just a small one like this, and doesn't have one on the other side, and it doesn't have signal lights. So I have decided I'm going to add signal lights, so this will be more drivable in the traffic that we have in our area. And yeah, so I found out I was able to order the complete taillight assemblies and the bracket to mount it and everything fairly inexpensively. So I ordered 2 of those, and I'm going to mount those for now. Also determined that the wiring harness on this truck is so rough, it's kind of cobbled up and it's old and brittle and breaks, that I'm just going to replace the entire wiring harness. So I ordered one of those, and I'm going to go about that process of replacing the wiring harness. I think that in the long run, replacing the wiring harness will save me a whole lot of headaches. I won't be chasing down broken wires and those kinds of things. So for right now, I'm going to do the easy part, which is mounting the 2 taillights, and we'll see how that goes. So all the parts that I'm putting on this time around, I got from Classic Parts, I believe it's called, and I've been very happy with them. First of all, they had everything in stock. Their prices were very reasonable. In fact, some of the best I found. Their shipping was reasonable, and they shipped it out in just a couple days. I had a pretty long list of 25 or so items, and they had everything in stock. But these are the brackets for these taillights. And again, they had all different kind of taillights, but these are closest to original, I think, that I could see, or at least what was originally on my truck. And this is the light assembly. Comes with a bulb, but not the pigtail. So if you need the pigtail harness, you'll have to order that separate, which I did not get. So I'll have to order that, especially since I'm adding an extra light. I got to double check. It might be part of my wiring harness that came, but I don't expect so. So we'll see if we can get this one put on. Okay, I think the last words out of my mouth is that would be the easy part, but as usual, it was not. Had to do a little modification. So this bumper isn't what you typically see on a truck, although I'm reasonably certain it's came with this truck. The way it's installed, looks pretty professionally installed. It's kind of a utility type bumper, a good hitch on it. But as part of that bumper, they had a step here, which I'm almost certain, kind of bent up now, was added on later. It certainly didn't look good. It was pretty janky. And that got in the way of the new brackets mounting that light right. And the old one was kind of twisted and bent here, you can see, to work around that, which I didn't really want to do because I'm not sure if I'm going to stick with this bumper or not.
in the end. I may put just a regular bumper, and so I didn't really want to modify it. So by grinding that off, I was able to get the taillight mounted. So it looks nice. Don't have wiring to it yet. Now to install the one on the other side, in theory, should actually be easier because I don't have that step to deal with. So we'll see how it goes. Okay, that one actually was easy. There's existing mounting holes for it on the frame there, and got both taillights on it. So that looks a lot better already. Might tackle that license plate next. I'm not sure what it's got for a license plate mounting bracket. We'll check it out. All right, tonight we are going to dive into doing the wiring harness. And surprisingly, we were able to get a complete wiring harness for the whole truck for about $140, along with the instructions that are supposedly very thorough. So we'll see if that's a true story. At least it does not appear that they're written in Chinese and translated, so that's a good sign. So we're gonna kind of unroll this wiring harness and see if we can figure out what goes where. All right, Luke, what you working on?
I am replacing the wiring, part of the wiring harness for the headlights.
So hooks into this block right here, and there's a separate harness that you've pulled through right there over to the headlight. And hooks up, hooks up behind there, runs under the fender and into the engine compartment. So it does that on both sides, and I'm currently working on this mess over here, and just trying to figure out where your wires go. We finally figured out which wires go inside through the firewall and which ones go out here. The wiring harness is pretty good so far, but not all the wires match up color-wise, so that's being a little bit problematic. We'll get it.
Installing a wiring harness doesn't make great videos, so we did most of it offline. We did do a few things, however, like install a signal light kit, which was more extensive than I expected. Also, when you install a wiring harness, those things that are powered by the wiring harness will often need repair or restoration. Things like the dome light, or the signal lights, or the coil, or the spark plug wires, and gauges in the dash. So we worked on many of those things off camera.
All right, so I got the speedometer out, as you can see. It's very rough. Glass is broken and it's pretty dirty and rusty in there, it looks like, even. But the first thing is to determine whether or not this is working or not. Wasn't working when I was driving the vehicle, so I don't know whether it's the speedometer cable, the gauge, or the drive and the transmission. So the first thing I want to do before I work on this at all is test it and see if it actually works. So I got a bit on my drill here that works in the back, fits in the back here, and I gotta change my drill direction here. It works. And I'm sure you can't see it in there, but the odometer is also working. So I've got something wrong that's not the speedometer. So that's good news, I think. So like I said, I found an old speedometer in the truck that my grandpa had taken out at some point. And so I'm going to try to put the two together and try to make a nice looking speedometer here that works. So it looks like this extra speedometer I had, my grandpa makes notes about everything he did. And I don't know if you can read it or not, but in 1970, 11 of 1970, my grandpa, that's Elmer, broke the hand off the speedometer. And so he got this speedometer from Dean, a friend of his. And he must have taken that hand out of this speedometer and put it in the other one. So the good news about that is I have a good speedometer here with good glass and a better face that's in better shape. But the old one that was in there is the original, so the mileage would be correct on it. That's what I was concerned about. So yeah, looks like I'm in good shape here. I'm going to put these two together and see what I can come up with for a good speedometer. So I took the speedometer apart and I found out a little more information. My grandfather made more notes inside, and apparently can't read it very well. Paint's kind of messed up. But in 11 of 1970, at 91,645 miles, he didn't just change the hand out, he changed the whole works from the spare speedometer. So that means that I don't have accurate mileage. So he changed it at 91, and it read 91,645. And the old speedometer, this would be the old works that he took out that the hand was broken off of, it was at 86. So my odometer is reading about 5,000 miles more than it actually had on it. So not too bad, but worth noting. So it's currently at 14,853. That's 114,853. So right around 100,000, 110,000, 109,000, I guess, on there. So it's nice that my grandpa made those notes, even though you can barely read it. All right, I'm going to get back to putting these gauges together, cleaning them up, putting them together. After a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, I was able to get a nice speedometer put together that works. So I basically tried to take apart my other speedometer to get the good face out of it, and I broke the needle off. And so I was kind of back to square one. And I just happened to be talking to a good friend of mine down the road who is working on a 54 Resto mod Chevy pickup. And he had taken the old gauges out of his and had them laying on the shelf. So that gauge was working, but the face was real rusty and the trim ring was real rusty. So I was able to take it apart. I figured out how the needle was supposed to come off without breaking, and I got a nice speedometer, but had to use 3 speedometers to get one. But saved a good bit of money by doing that. So speedometer solved. I also just got my new gauges in the mail from Canada. So you might be able to see the trim ring on that is a little rusty. I have a better trim ring, but those gauges are nice. And I'm going to put those together and try to make a nice set of gauges. So we'll see how that goes.
I didn't really film it, but my old gauges were in very poor condition. Apparently there had been some water intrusion into the dash and had rendered all of the gauges except for the oil pressure inoperable. As I mentioned, I was able to source some gauges from a gentleman in Canada, and I'm going to put the 2 gauge clusters together and hopefully be able to make a nice one.
Okay, after cleaning and polishing, I got myself a nice set of gauges. Now, I don't know if all of these gauges work yet. I think they're gonna, but I'm not 100% sure. We'll find that out. If not, I've got some spares over here and we can make a set that does, hopefully. But all cleaned up, ready to put back in. So I've got to go work on my wiring harness some more so that I can get them installed in the dash. Well, it's been a minute since I've done anything on the 54 pickup here, but I've been working on the wiring harness, and I have it about 80% done. I haven't run wires back to the tail lights yet and wired up a signal lights, adding that in, but started it up tonight, runs, and big victory is all my gauges seem to be working. Even have lights in them, and my temperature gauge, amp gauge, oil pressure, fuel, everything is working. So that's pretty awesome. Got to get these signal lights hooked up now. They didn't have that originally, so I'm going to add those in. But running good. I put new radiator hoses and spark plug wires and belt, fan belt, things like that on it. And
nothing caught fire and everything seems to be working. So that's a pretty good accomplishment after replacing that. I also have been working on the paint a little bit, cleaned up this door, and a fair amount of primer showing through. I'll show a little more of that process later. Around the corner of the cab here a little bit I cleaned up, just to see what it'll look like if I'm going to do patina. Not sure if I can stand it. I'm a shiny paint guy, and this patina thing is not really my thing. I've worked on this fender a little bit. Cab has red primer. The bed seems to have black primer underneath, which is interesting. But yeah, I just wanted to give a quick update.
I decided to stop the video here because it's getting kind of long. Thanks for watching. The next time we will begin doing some body work and trying to work with the patina on the truck and figure out what we're going to do with that. I think you'll enjoy that one. That video should be coming out shortly. The picture you're looking at is probably late 60s, early 70s. The one in the back is the 54 that we're working on today on my grandfather's farm. The other truck is a 1953 Chevrolet 5-window that is still in actually pretty nice condition. My cousin just recently got that one going, and it's been a nice project for him. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.